Bueno, traders, ¿qué tal? Bienvenidos a lo que es la segunda parte de la redacción y el análisis de la entrevista de Mark Douglas. Vamos a estar revisando la segunda parte de lo que es esta redacción. Recuerden apoyar lo que es el contenido en caso que les guste, en caso que les agrade. Dejen un comentario, un like si desean que este tipo de contenido continúe en el canal, para de esa forma seguir trayendo más videos de este tipo. Con eso dicho, continuamos con la entrevista. Si no has visto la parte 1, te recomiendo verla para que puedas entender un poquito a qué se está refiriendo, digamos, el entrevistador y las personas que estamos viendo en este video, y puedas entender un poquito más el contexto de todo lo que están hablando. Iniciamos con la parte número 2.
Common entries, but again, it's a random event. But we're putting the edge, you said, in our favor.
Yeah. Jared, when you put on a trade, okay, when you put on a trade, do you know who, now what we've done, we've reduced the market down to these terms, okay, that it takes someone else to make us a winner, right?
Correct.
Okay, when you put on a trade, you think about who that might be, who might come into the market to actually make you a winner?
No, of course not.
Yeah, no. And if it turns out to be a winning trade, do you know who those traders were, or who that trader was that actually made you a winner?
No.
Is there any way to know?
No.
There might be, but it'd be pretty hard to find out, right? I mean, you could go to the clearing firm, you know, the firm that clears the
bottom line is
bottom line. Yeah, exactly. So what I'm saying is that when the pattern presents itself, like, okay, I have an edge here. When the pattern presents itself, we don't have any idea of who is actually going to come into the market to do this for us. And so there's no point in analyzing. There's no point in judging. There's no point in trying to figure out whether it's going to work or not. It would be like, for an example, if I said to you, Jared, I'm going to give you a coin.
Bueno, acá están hablando, que es parte con lo que terminamos la parte número 1 de este video. Que básicamente cuando la persona o el trader ingresa un trade, se presenta un setup y ingresa o termina ingresando lo que es un trade como tal, entra un factor aleatorio que básicamente nosotros no podemos controlar, que es finalmente si el precio se va a terminar moviendo a nuestro favor o no. Para que finalmente el precio se mueva en una dirección a favor o en contra, tiene que entrar volumen y tiene que entrar liquidez al mercado, ¿cierto? Tiene que entrar dinero al mercado. Y eso obviamente lo hace una institución, y los que son capaces de hacer que el mercado de alguna forma se mueva. Pero justamente es lo que hablábamos al principio de la parte número 1, de que hay factores que nosotros no podemos controlar. Y esto es uno de ellos, o sea, que se presente el patrón, pero que desde que ingresamos a la operación realmente el trade vaya a ir a nuestro favor o en contra. Ese es un factor que realmente nosotros no podemos manejar.
And this coin is weighted in a way where it's going to come up heads 70% of the time. Now, just because I know mathematically and statistically that this pattern of coming up heads 70% of the time exists, is there still any way for me to know the actual sequence to heads to tails?
Of course not. It's an infinite.
Well, no, I'm saying, do I know the sequence? In other words, I'm going to flip the coin 100 times, and statistically it's going to come up heads 70% of the times. I still don't know which flips are going to
heads.
Which flips are going to come up heads. This is which flips. It's not the times. Right. Which ones? In other words, we flip the coin once, it comes up heads. Flip the coin twice, it comes up heads. The next one's tails. The next one's tails. The next one's tails. In other words, we could have streaks of heads or tails. Okay, we could have streaks in there. The point that I'm making is that there is no way to know the actual sequence.
But at the end of the day, we know we have 70%.
So what that does, that obligates us, if we want to be able to trade our methodology in an effective fashion, to be able to utilize this methodology in a way where we can extract the maximum amount of profit that it makes available to us based on the pattern that it identifies, we have to do it in certain ways. In other words, our mind has to be free to be able to execute these trades without making trading errors. And the trading errors come from believing that because the pattern is present, that it's going to give me a winning trade on this one. This trade is going to be a winner.
You can't think.
Lo que ya hemos visto a lo largo de todo el video, ¿cierto? El hecho de poner todas las esperanzas en un solo trade, poner todas las esperanzas en una operación, no es lo correcto. Yo creo que ya la mayoría de estas alturas lo entiende. Y de ahí se origina todo básicamente. El poner las esperanzas en un solo trade, en una operación, o tus esperanzas en una semana, pues las operaciones que ingreses en una semana, es lo que al final del día te termina perjudicando y te termina entregando una mala experiencia también con el trading, porque comienzas a experimentar emociones negativas, comienzas a experimentar frustraciones, y básicamente de acá comienza a surgir muchos de los factores negativos que cualquier trader en su carrera comienza a experimentar, ¿ya? Muy importante eso, o sea, muy importante el tener claro que si tú tienes un sistema, ya lo he dicho muchas veces, pero si tú tienes un sistema que funciona, que sabes que funciona, simplemente ejecuta y confía en lo que estás haciendo.
No, you can't think that way.
Can't think that.
That's the way the typical trader thinks.
Right.
The typical trader thinks, I'm not going to put this trade on unless I think it's going to be a winner. Or why would I do it?
So,
And it skews our expectations. See, it messes our expectations.
let's back up a couple seconds here. There's some great stuff here, Mark, and I hope our traders are getting all of this. You're basically saying, and this makes a whole lot of sense to me, and I hope it's getting through to you guys, we have a tool that gives us an edge. Whatever it is. Even if that edge is 2% or 3%, I don't know if we can...
No, it's more than that.
Maybe more than that.
Well, what do you mean more? There's a lot more than that. It's far more than 50%.
Well, I was saying greater than 50. I was using edge is defined
I
as...
see.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
So maybe 55 or 56% of the time.
Right.
Let's just say...
And the thing is, it doesn't even have to be 50% to actually make consistent money. That's what people can realize too. That depending on what the ratio is between what you have to risk to find out if a trade is going to work and how much profit it generates when it does, you don't even need a 50% win-loss ratio. As a matter of fact, back in the 80s, there are, one of the most famous traders from the 80s, Richard Dennis, on a percentage basis, 95% of his trades were losers. 95%. But the 5% that were winners were monsters.
Wow, fíjense lo que comenta ahí, o sea, perder el 95% de las operaciones, ganar solamente un 5% y aún así ser considerado uno de los mejores traders. También te pone a pensar muchas veces de lo que uno a veces mira del proceso personal o de las autocríticas que muchas veces uno se hace. O sea, muchas veces uno se autocritica tanto de que quizás no estoy teniendo los resultados que quiero, te comparas con el resto, ves que los demás están teniendo mejores resultados que tú y realmente no eres capaz de apreciar quizás el trabajo que estás haciendo en ese momento y las victorias y los resultados que estás teniendo tú en ese momento. A mí personalmente me pasó hace varios años atrás, en un momento en el cual yo me sentía frustrado, sentía que no estaba haciendo las cosas bien, que no estaba teniendo los resultados que quería, estaba ganando poco dinero con el trading, estamos hablando de $100, lo que ganaba en ese momento, y me sentía muy frustrado y a partir de ahí ignoraba lo que estaba haciendo, las ganancias, las pequeñas victorias que estaba teniendo. Y una vez revisando y viendo, me di cuenta que yo estaba frustrado, que estaba mirando todo desde el polo negativo, pero cuando lo miré desde otra perspectiva me pude dar cuenta que yo todos los meses estaba sacando un 2%, un 1%, un 3%, estaba sacando porcentajes positivos mes a mes y yo no me había dado cuenta de eso justamente por verlo desde el polo negativo. Es algo que sucede mucho, es algo que se suele presentar también en muchas personas y también es importante que lo tengan presente, el disfrutar las pequeñas victorias y el ser capaz de percibir y de apreciar las victorias que vamos teniendo en nuestro proceso.
And he was able to put on trades at a 95% loss ratio and make, at the most at one point, I think around 1987 or 1988,
now,
he had $400 million.
Is that using his edge or his money management or a combination of both?
A combination of all of it.
Okay.
And see, one of the things he did too, and this is something I ought to really qualify with, he would use orders to actually probe the market. See, there's one of the things, I don't want to leave what we're doing right now, but I'm going to just kind of divert just for a moment,
okay,
and so that people understand that one of the first things to be a successful trader that you have to learn, other than the fact of finding a good edge, meaning something that puts a pattern, a collective pattern that your edge identifies, that puts the odds in your favor, right, that there's a higher probability of one thing happening over another once this pattern is present in the market, is that you have to learn how to think in probabilities. In other words, you have to get your expectations aligned with the way the market actually exists. Right. And when you do, in other words, when you learn these kind of mental skills and you're able to execute your trades without fear and without hesitation, without analyzing, or even without thinking for that matter, because you don't need to think. I'll give you an example. A professional trader, what a professional trader.
Bueno, acá toca un tema importantísimo de que tú estés alineado con expectativas reales del mercado. Muy importante.
Thinks about when there's an edge present is does he think about whether the edge is going to work? Absolutely not. Because he knows he has learned there's no point. Right. There's no point in analyzing or judging or building a case for or against whether that trade is going to work, because he understands the human component. Okay. But what he does think about is he thinks about the risk. How much do I have to risk? How far am I going to let the market go against this position to tell me that other traders are either going to come into the market and make me a winner or not? And he also has a plan for how he's going to take profits.
Right.
But the typical trader, what does the typical trader do?
They don't have a plan.
Well,
or they think about the trade too much. They think about, is this going to be a winner? Is this going to be a loser for me?
The exact opposite of the professional.
So what the professional does is basically...
And then once they make up their mind that it's a winning trade, they don't predefine their risk, do they?
Right.
And they also don't have a plan to take profits because they think when
it's going to be a winner.
It's going to go on forever.
And I want to talk about that.
Acá están comentando muchas cosas que me imagino que muchos de ustedes en algún momento ha pasado, y es justamente, viene a resumir todo lo que han estado hablando en este momento. O sea, el esperar un resultado de una operación en particular hace que muchas veces el trader haga ciertas cosas o tome ciertas decisiones que no son las mejores para su trading. Por ejemplo, correr el stop loss, el no predefinir un riesgo adecuado, el no saber dónde salir en ganancias, el no tomar beneficios cuando corresponde, y un sinfín de cosas que justamente surgen del punto de creer que esa operación en particular va a salir ganadora y que tiene que salir ganadora, cuando realmente no es así. O sea, no siempre vamos a estar teniendo la razón, y van a haber momentos en los cuales nos vamos a equivocar y nos vamos a seguir equivocando, y si llevas 10 años en el trading vas a seguir teniendo operaciones ganadoras, y eso es totalmente normal y va a seguir sucediendo siempre. Resultados aleatorios que no podemos controlar con nuestro sistema, operaciones perdedoras que siempre van a estar presentes en nuestro sistema, pero que al fin y al cabo esas ganancias y esas pérdidas y ese resultado aleatorio es lo que finalmente va construyendo nuestro resultado a largo plazo. O sea, por ejemplo, en mi caso, yo en este mes llevo lo que es un 5%, y ese mes, o sea, este 5% se ha construido en base a operaciones ganadoras, en base a operaciones perdedoras y un sinfín de operaciones que se han ido desarrollando a lo largo del mes. Pero yo no ingreso a una operación diciendo esta operación sí o sí va a resultar ganadora, porque si yo ingresara con esa postura al mercado de que sí o sí va a resultar ganadora, mejor abro la operación y arriesgo inmediatamente el 5% en esa operación para ganar un 15% en un puro trade. Pero yo entiendo que por más que yo tenga un setup, un sistema que sé que funciona, no puedo poner todos los huevos en un canasto al momento de ingresar a una operación. Van a haber muchos factores que no puedo controlar.
We're running up on the break here, but I want to talk about that on the other side. But what you're saying is, the bottom line is, the professional sees the entry, he sees the pattern, whatever it is, the edge, enters in, not thinking if I'm going to win or I'm going to lose, but has a money management strategy in place, knows exactly how much he wants to win or is willing to win and how much he's willing to lose or risk.
Right.
Exactly. Now, does he put a cap on the upside? Does he put a cap on his win side?
It's not a matter of a cap, it's a matter of...
Bueno, esto es lo que se conoce como ratio beneficios, saber dónde colocar tu stop, saber dónde no colocar tu take profit, y también poder respetar y ser capaz de respetar esas reglas que tú te vas poniendo.
Of his assessment of how much potential there is. Okay. In other words, see, the problem is on a winning trade, we're obligated in a sense to make these never-ending decisions as to what the risk to reward ratio is. In other words, as the market's going in my favor, what's the risk of finding out that it's going to go further? And that's why so many professional traders or people who teach trading advocate scaling out of positions.
Mark, this is all great stuff. We're going to have to wind it up. We got to go to a break. Guys, it's already time, as I said, for a break. Mark Douglas has been talking about psychology in today's market. Mark, let's continue with our conversation we left off with. We were talking when we left about the flip of a coin. And you said that you had a coin that was actually weighted on one side. You gave an example how a coin was weighted on one side, and over a series of flips, that coin had a 70% chance of, in this case, landing on heads.
Right.
Whereas in our software, we give you the edge, and maybe with our software, you have a better chance of being right or having a winning trade if you get in on a certain pattern.
Right.
You also talked about how
It's the word right that's really critical here, okay?
right.
It's the word right.
Bueno, este es el típico ejemplo que se menciona normalmente de la moneda, de lanzar una moneda cara o sello, para explicar un poco también el tema de los resultados aleatorios. O sea, lanzar una moneda nada te asegura que pueda caer sí o sí cara o que sí o sí pueda caer cruz. Ahí es donde entra el resultado aleatorio, y también este ejemplo como tal de la moneda busca justamente explicar eso que sucede también en el trading.
In other words, what people need to understand is how does believing in a random result affect your expectations? Because see, what we don't want is we don't want to get into trading with the possibility of being disappointed, or the possibility of being dissatisfied, or being even betrayed, because a lot of traders feel that way. They really feel betrayed. And the problem is that when that potential exists, it has the effect of affecting the way that we see market information in detrimental ways. Because, in other words, all of us have these mental pain avoidance mechanisms that affect our perception of information. Right. So, for an example, if I'm in a losing trade, and I got into this trade thinking I was going to be right. Okay. In other words, I did all my evaluation, I did all my analysis, I did my work, I built a case. Right. It's like as the market's moving against me, I'm going to have the tendency to focus on information that tells me that I'm right and ignore the information that tells me that the market is actually trending against me. In other words, I can identify a trend, but I won't be able to identify that trend if I'm putting an inordinate amount of significance on the information that's telling me that I'm right, as opposed to ignoring the information that's telling me that I'm wrong. And see, and overall, if we want to be consistent, the principle that we need to keep in mind is that to be consistent, we have to cut our losses and let our profits run. We have to make more on our winning trades than what we lose on our losing trades. And the problem is that if I'm susceptible to being disappointed or betrayed, meaning I get into a trade, expecting it to do what I think it's going to do, that I'm going to have this tendency to distort market information that causes me to hang on to my losers. And in a winning trade, what will happen is that instead of letting a winner run, markets don't go straight up. In other words, so I'm in a long trade. Right. I would like the market to go straight up, but they don't. They go up and they come back and they come, and it's the retracements we focus on instead of the fact that the market's still trending in our favor.
So what you're saying right now, basically, is I found.
Acá, bueno, Dios habló de muchas cosas realmente. Pero también habló de un tema importante acerca de cuando uno ingresa una operación y el desarrollo también de la operación, cuando la operación quizás no va a tu favor o va en tu contra. Las expectativas, y es lo que hemos hablado, y yo creo que es gran parte de lo que se ha hablado en esta entrevista, que habla netamente de expectativas del trader, de la persona, las expectativas que tiene el trader al momento de entrar a este negocio. Muchas veces esa frustración o ese sentimiento de sentirse defraudado en el trading viene a raíz de poner expectativas en el trading. Y si esas expectativas no se cumplen, muchas veces vas a sentir frustración y vas a sentir malestar emocional. Como cuando quizás pierdes tu fondeo, no logras pasar tu examen de fondeo, cuando quemas tu cuenta, cuando pierdes más de la cuenta. Sientes una frustración, y eso nace justamente de que no se dio lo que tú esperabas. Tomaste malas decisiones, no se dio como tú esperabas, y eso te jugó en contra. Te afectó, te dolió. Malestar emocional, y eso te puede llevar a muchas veces nublar tu visión del mercado y no ver el verdadero flujo o las verdaderas oportunidades que se puedan estar presentando en ese momento en el mercado.
Found a stock, for instance, that I love. The stock just had a great news story. The charts are the same as the other stocks I've traded, but just for some particular reason, I feel great about this stock. Don't know what it is, but maybe they had some great news out, and I feel that stock starts to go against me. You know what? Based on the news that's out there, based on the special feeling I have about this stock, I continue to hold my loser. I continue to hold my loser until this thing draws down against me, and I'm in a major losing position. And I keep losing because I feel in my mind that I had some sort of special. This stock was special. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, yeah, it could be anything.
Because I know traders do that.
Yeah, I know. It could be any variable kind of information that people latch onto. Okay. The thing that they have to understand is, regardless of the reason that they got into a trade, it doesn't. Regardless of the reason, if other traders don't buy into that reason, or if other traders don't have another reason to want to buy at a price that's worse than yours. You bought the stock at 10. Right. Someone's got to want to buy it at 11. Someone's going to want to buy it at 12 and buy it at 13. And not only be able to buy it at 11, 12, and 13 and 14, they're going to have to take out all the offers, all the traders who think it's high. In other words, at 11, 12, and 13. And so if these people aren't coming into the market to do that, well, then whatever reason you thought you had might not be so good. Right. And so that's why it's so critical to predefine your risk before you even get into a trade. And that's why professional traders don't think about it any other way, because they know it takes other people. That you know, my reason might be great, but if someone else isn't buying into it, what difference does it make? It doesn't matter, because it's not a winning trade. And so, you know, if we have this susceptibility to be disappointed, what it does, it affects our perception of market information in a way that doesn't allow us to cut our losses.
How do we make ourselves not susceptible? I mean, how can you shut off?
Yes, by changing your perspective on this, by really understanding. For an example, Jared, you ever played a slot machine?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, I don't like it.
You might, okay.
But I played it.
Whatever reason you don't like it, doesn't matter, okay? That's good that you didn't like it, because it might make the example even better, okay? Okay? You play a slot machine. When you put your money in the machine, let's say it's a quarter machine, okay? You put your money in the machine, you press the button, and the pattern indicating that there's a payoff doesn't show up. How do you feel? Well, do you feel betrayed? Do you feel betrayed by the machine?
No, not at all.
And why do you not feel betrayed by the machine?
It's just a random, it's
a random outcome. Okay. So in other words, you went into it with the belief that you know that you're participating in an event with a random outcome. Right. And as a result, your expectations about the outcome were in perfect alignment.
Hay un muy buen ejemplo, o sea, el tema de las máquinas de los casinos. La gran mayoría de la gente sabe que los resultados de las máquinas de casinos son aleatorios. Entonces, ¿qué hace la persona cuando va a sentarse a la máquina y juega? Y pierde. No le afecta porque mentalmente va predispuesto a que los resultados de la máquina y que la máquina como tal entrega resultados aleatorios. Entonces, si pierde, realmente no le afecta. Distinto a lo que sucede en la persona con el trading. Muy buen ejemplo para explicar y poner en perspectiva justamente esto que están comentando. Si mentalmente yo sé y entiendo que los resultados son aleatorios, tengo otro tipo de sentimiento al momento de tener una pérdida o de perder en algún momento.
The event itself.
My expectation, believe it or not, was to lose. I know this sounds crazy, but when I put the quarter in, I thought, you know what, I'm probably going to lose this quarter.
Yeah, exactly, okay? Because you know, the odds aren't exactly in your favor. And what trading systems can do is actually put the odds in your favor in a way where we own the machine. Believe it or not. I mean, this is the whole role reverses if you learn to think about it correctly. In other words, if you understand that, you know, so for an example, well, let me backtrack a little bit and say that most traders, you know, if you compare trading to a slot machine, the difference would be that with a slot machine, we can't play until we've accepted the risk. In other words, we actually have to take our money out of our pocket and put it in the machine, or otherwise we can't play. Right. So that implies that we've accepted the risk, because the degree to which we have not accepted the risk, we wouldn't be able to put our money in the machine.
That is our loss. The quarter is our loss.
That's the risk. No, that's not our loss. That's just the risk. That's just how much we're willing to invest to find out if it's going to work. Okay? And then what we do is we wait for a pattern to show up. And if the pattern's, a jackpot, great. If it's not, then we might be willing to put another quarter in the machine to find out if it is.
Interesante lo que comentó ahí, o sea, el hecho de tú, al momento de estar jugando en la máquina, tú ya vas predispuesto a que ese va a ser el riesgo que tú vas a estar utilizando, por ejemplo, sean $50 para ganar 300 en la máquina. Tú ya sabes y entiendes y tienes muy claro que si tú no pones esos $50 en la máquina, sinceramente tú no puedes jugar, no puedes abrir ningún movimiento en la máquina. Y es similar y se asemeja mucho a la perspectiva que deberíamos estar teniendo en el trade. Entender que, por ejemplo, si tú arriesgas un 1% o $50, ese es el riesgo en tu trading o en tu trade particular, para ver si ese trade que tú estás ingresando puede funcionar o no puede funcionar. Me parece muy interesante ese ejemplo que estuvo dando él.
The difference with trading, and this is where people's mental idea of what this is all about gets messed up. The difference with trading is that the pattern shows up in the market. The pattern shows up first, okay? Then what we have to do is put up our money, meaning how much am I willing to risk to find out if it's going to work? But most traders, because they evaluate, because they judge, and because they analyze, they think that and build a case for the pattern being right, they actually talk themselves out of believing that the risk even exists. They might give lip service to the idea of putting a stop in the market, like some of those errors that I said in the beginning. Right. How many people put stops in the market and take them out, and then and then let what would have been a small losing trade go into a big losing trade? That's lip service. You see, that. Well, okay, I've been told over and over again I got to put stops in the market, so I'm going to do it. But they haven't really accepted the risk.
You see that every day. Every day.
Yeah, they haven't really truly accepted the risk because they don't want to be wrong. And what they have to understand is that this is not a right or wrong game. This has nothing to do. Trading a technical methodology or a technical pattern does not have anything to do with being right or wrong. It's just an odds game. That's all it is. In other words, you get an edge that says I've got the odds in my favor over a series of trades, but you've got to be able to take every single trade because you don't know the sequence to wins and losses. You got to be able to identify what your risk is, and that's simply how much am I willing to spend to find out if other traders are going to come into this market and bid it higher than my price or offer it lower than my price if I sold. That's all.
Muy interesante lo que comentó. De hecho, es una de las razones por las cuales a mí personalmente muchas veces no me gusta proyectar mis entradas o mostrar mis entradas a las demás personas o al público, por así decirlo, o a los alumnos, porque yo desde mi posición, yo entiendo mucho esto. O sea, yo entiendo que si yo ingreso una operación, el resultado es totalmente aleatorio. O sea, y lo que yo siento al momento de quizás mandar una proyección, mandar una señal o tratar de mandar algo a los alumnos o a la gente que te sigue, de que justamente como que uno lo que intenta o lo que se muestra justamente con señales o proyecciones es que quizás uno siempre está en lo correcto, o lo que las personas ven detrás es que uno quizás siempre está en lo correcto, que el trader que ya tiene resultados siempre está en lo correcto, cuando realmente no es así. Este punto que comentó Mark Douglas recién lo considero fundamental, porque realmente acá está resumiendo todo y es lo más importante al día de hoy. O sea, tanto lo que es el riesgo, tanto lo que es el tener o no tener la razón, el saber que el resultado es aleatorio, y todos esos factores que hemos visto a lo largo del video, al fin y al cabo terminan englobando una mentalidad que una persona o que un trader debería estar teniendo para desarrollar algún resultado consistente. Muy importante. Y es posible, retroceder en esta parte, véanla de nuevo, tomen apuntes, porque esto sí es importantísimo.
And then of course you have to have a money management plan for how to take consistent profits.
Right. Which
is
another problem I want to say.
Oh yeah, but see the thing is, it's like when you change your perspective, when you change how you think about this, okay, it's like I know there's a random outcome to these patterns, and so I know it's not right or wrong, and so what potential do I have to get disappointed? No more potential than what you had to get disappointed by putting a quarter in a slot machine and it didn't come up.
¿Ven? Entonces de ahí surge todo. O sea, si yo tengo una operación, si yo tengo un sistema, si yo ingreso una operación, ¿qué sentido tiene de que yo esté en esa operación mirándola constantemente, ansioso por la operación, mirándola cada 5 minutos en MetaTrader 4, si va a mi favor o va en mi contra? Simplemente deja que las probabilidades actúen a tu favor, es que se da, en el sentido de que si tú ingresas una operación y colocaste tu take profit 1-3, deja que el mercado se mueva, déjale ese resultado que tú no puedes controlar al mercado. Así es como lo veo yo, así es como yo lo trabajo y así es como también me gusta llevarlo también.
Jackpot. Right. And see, this is the critical thing here, Jared. You got to be able to change the way you think. This is what's the title of this program?
Tienes que ser capaz de cambiar la forma en la que piensas. Quito con eso.
Mind over markets, okay? You got to be able to change the way you think. And
how does a trader do? I mean, what are the steps? I mean, you know, is there obviously by reading your books, by getting themselves immersed in your thinking, is certainly a way to do that. Is there anything from this point forward a trader can begin to do, or thoughts that traders can, you know, try to add to the repertoire to begin to think like a professional trader, have that carefree state of mind, and start to change the way that they view the markets and their risk? Is there an exercise they can do?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's an exercise in trading in the zone, exercises in how to think like a professional trader, and basically.
Cierto, aprovechando que acaba de mencionar el libro Trading en la Zona, es un libro muy recomendado que recomiendo que toda persona realmente lea. Es un libro muy bueno, es un libro que realmente te va a ayudar muchísimo a ordenarte, a ver el trading desde otra perspectiva. Y es un libro que creo que, independiente que si llevas 1 año, 8 meses, 1 mes, 2 años, 3 años, 4 años, 5 años en el trading, siempre va a tener un mensaje que entregarte y siempre te va a aportar algo para el proceso y la situación en la cual estés desarrollándote en ese momento.
Really, all it really takes, Jared, is simply a sincere willingness to do it. Honest to God, it's just, you know, it's just like anything else in our lives. When we realize that there's a particular goal that we have, and you know, and there's a strong desire to achieve that goal, then we're going to take whatever steps we need to achieve it. Whether those steps are trading in the zone, or how to think like a professional trader, or some other methodology that people are more comfortable with, or whatever. The point is that if someone really, you know, really sets their mind, any of us, when we really set our mind at getting something, we'll get there. We will get there, but the difference is, like we started out in the beginning of the program, the difference with this is that what we have to set our mind at is how to change our mind.
Bueno, traders, y nos vamos a quedar con este último mensaje. Debes cambiar tu forma de pensar. Muy importante. Cambiar tu forma de pensar. Trabaja en ti, trabaja en tus emociones, trabaja en tu plan de trading, trabaja en todo lo que tenga que ver con tu toma de decisiones. Si gustan, coméntenmelo en los comentarios si les gustaría que desarrolláramos un video en el cual nos enfocáramos exclusivamente a cómo mejorar y cómo tomar mejores decisiones en el trading. Si les gustaría un video de este tipo, déjenmelo saber en los comentarios para poder desarrollarlo. Nuevamente, si este video les gusta y si este contenido les está gustando, dejen un like, dejen un comentario y nos estamos viendo en una próxima oportunidad. Que estén bien, chao.